Hello everyone, so today I decided to do something a bit more chilled and kind of like story time, random talk sort of video. But I still think this video will be useful and helpful for you if you watch this video. I haven't properly decided the title of this video as I'm recording it, but it will probably be like 4 language beliefs that I've changed. So the first belief is that you don't have to know a language perfectly to be fluent in it. I remember when I was learning English, I really had the aim to be perfect, to have perfect pronunciation, and I think you can tell I've worked quite a lot on my pronunciation because it's not perfect, but I think it's not like a stereotypical French accent, and a lot of people tell me that. And I think it's because I took a lot of time to work on it to have the best accent as possible, even though it's not perfect. And this was very problematic for me because that means I put a lot of pressure on my English, on my level of English, because I really wanted to have perfect grammar, perfect vocab. And that used to make me feel quite stressed when I was speaking English because of that, because I wanted to be perfect and my English wasn't perfect. And now I know that it will probably never be. And I think the reason why I had this kind of belief that I needed to speak the language perfectly is because in France and in other countries, we have this sort of concept of standard language against which we compare our levels. So we want to speak like a native speaker, but actually we're not native speaker and we will probably never learn the language like perfectly. And I don't even think native speakers speak their languages perfectly either. So in a way, it feels like useless pressure. And in fact, I do believe that standard language is very arbitrary because there is no scientific reason or evidence for supporting that the current standard English is the perfect English. It's just that a group of people one day decided that this English would be the English that everyone should be speaking. So sometimes when I doubt my English skills, and I know that might surprise some of you because I'm fluent in English, right? But sometimes I do find myself thinking, oh, I mispronounced this word, I need to improve my pronunciation. Oh, this wasn't the right word to use, especially when I'm editing these videos, because I need to listen to myself a lot. Then I try to just remind myself that it's okay, I will not have perfect English, but I'm pretty sure people that watch these videos understand me quite well and fine, and there is no reason for me to worry and stress over it. I think at the end of the day, what matters is that I can communicate with people and make myself understood. So if you're in that situation where you feel like your language skills aren't perfect, they probably aren't perfect, but that's fine because you can still communicate. And just that in itself is a huge victory. The second belief that I've changed is the fact that being a native bilingual like me has nothing to do with speaking 2 or more languages perfectly at all. If you have been following my videos for a while, you might know that I'm French and Portuguese, and I've spent my entire education in France, so I'm perfectly fluent in French. Obviously, I can write it comfortably, I can read it, etc., etc. But in Portuguese, it's a little different because I've never been to a Portuguese school. And the way I've learned Portuguese was just by speaking with my family because they don't speak French and that's the only language we have in common. So I kind of had to learn it the hard way, if I may say. But I did used to believe that I wasn't really Portuguese because I couldn't speak Portuguese perfectly well. I couldn't write it super well. And that really put me down a lot because I was doubting my own identity. I'm not trying to pose myself as the victim here, but I'm sure that some of you watching this video will be in that situation where you are a native speaker of 2 languages, but there's maybe one of the 2 languages that you don't speak perfectly well. Maybe you make pronunciation mistakes. Maybe you make some grammar mistakes, you know, whichever mistake it is, and it might make you feel like an outcast, and that's exactly how I felt. And it was quite difficult for me to deal with because I felt like I was not part of my culture really, and that's kind of a weird feeling, and it's kind of hard to explain if you haven't been in that situation yourself. But now what I've realized is that what makes me Portuguese is not my fluency in the language, it's more the fact that my family is Portuguese, the fact that, you know, I can still have conversations with people, yes, but mainly because I want to identify as a Portuguese person because I am, that's it, like, you know, I decide what I am essentially. The number 3 belief that I've changed is that now I don't judge people based on their language. I know for some of you it's obvious and for others it's not obvious, but we often in society kind of judge how people speak or what language they speak. So for example, if someone on Facebook writes a comment and that person makes tons of mistakes, you can be sure that someone will be commenting on the fact that their English is poor and maybe they need education or something like that. Or maybe someone will be speaking a variety of a language or a dialect and people will judge them for that. And I think these attitudes, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, come from the fact that we all see standard language as the ideal language, and if anyone kind of moves away from the standard, they're essentially worthless. But it's important to be aware of the fact that this is something that's arbitrary. No one should be speaking a certain way just because someone decided that they should. Everyone should be able to use language as they see fit, and I don't think we have the right to judge. And from a pure scientific point of view, because I'm a linguist by training, there is actually no evidence to support that a language should be spoken a certain way and not another. And by judging someone based on the language, we are actually discriminating against them, and this is actually something that I've covered in a video a couple of months ago. I will link this video in the description. It's actually a very interesting video, so do watch it if you're interested. Now, fourth belief, and I think this one is a little bit controversial, but it's the idea that there might be a secret for language learning, but no one has found it yet. Yeah, I know, you're gonna tell me there's this polyglot that knows how to learn a language, there's this guy that teaches you how to speak 15,000 languages, but the truth is that linguists haven't broken the code yet, and there is no way someone else that isn't even in the field of linguistics and has probably not even read a linguistics paper in their lives before would know how to learn a language. Now, I'm not saying that language YouTubers are useless, but the only thing we can actually do is to give you tips and hacks and kind of ways to make it easier, but we cannot actually tell you how to learn a language because we don't actually know. And I don't actually think anyone should have the pretension to claim otherwise, especially if they have never done any formal research in second language acquisition. So that's it for this video. I hope, as usual, that you liked it, and if you have yourself some language beliefs that you have changed, then do feel free to share them with me. That'd be quite interesting to know about it. So I will see you next week. Bye!